Hi, it's Nathan Crane, creator of the Search for Sustainability documentary series. And tonight's episode is going to be hopefully very empowering for you, as it has been for me. You know, as a father of two, as a husband, and as a student of life. To me, sustainable education, sustainable families, sustainable parenting, and sustainable schools are the way of the future. You know, our current education systems, for the most part, speaking about the majority of them, are unsustainable. And you'll learn that in tonight's episode. You'll also learn what's causing some of the in-the-box thinking for humanity to be stuck. You know, we're always taught think outside the box. Well, there's actually neurological evidence that the way we're being taught in schools is forcing us, including our brains, to actually stay in this linear thinking, in this construct, this box-type thinking, which is preventing us from accessing our creative potential. And we'll learn what it means to have a sustainable family, sustainable children, and again incorporating these aspects and dynamics of sustainability from all facets, specifically with food and health and mental health, emotional health, but really tying into, you know, how do we communicate sustainably and how to take care of each other and our children and our next generations in a sustainable way so that they can lead the way of the future to create a regenerative and thriving community of human beings here on planet Earth. So again, thank you so much for tuning in this evening, and make sure you share this with everybody you know. Join the movement, leave us your comments and feedback, and I know you'll enjoy tonight's episode. Thank you. Let's get started.
How many times have we circled this fire? A prayer upon our lips. And how many times have we gone to the water's edge to give thanks for these gifts? And we will rise again. We will rise again. My people will rise again. Will so many times we've gone to the water's edge to give thanks for these gifts.
Why should children be learning sustainability and permaculture is because the future that we have right now on the planet, at least in the industrialized developed countries, it's not as certain as it's been in the past. We've had stable climates in the past. We've had rains that we could count on. We've had temperatures that were within norms that we've counted on for our food systems. And the environment is not stable as it has been in the past. Unfortunately for our developed countries, we have a very limited amount of monocropping, which we have sort of taken the diversity of different types of plants and we've chosen and narrowed down the ones that we favor as human beings to eat. But we have sort of dropped off that a whole diversity of other sort of types of sort of corn, for example. Now, while they give us high yields, these types of corns are not able to adapt to a wide range of environmental conditions. For example, high temperatures, maybe less rain. So what we're in danger of is falling food from significant environmental change, climate change, which is all around us right now. We're all experiencing higher temperatures than we've ever seen. We're all experiencing less water than we've ever seen available. I don't need to tell people in California that. And that's right around the globe. That's not just here. I mean, that's in India, that's in Africa, that's in Asia. Right? So while each of us are only worried, it's human nature to worry about your own community, we're all experiencing it. But our children are going to see some of this even probably more profound, because what we've started doesn't stop quickly. We cannot like turn this Titanic around by just throwing the wheel over all the way. That ship takes a long, long time to come around, and our environment is very much like that.
You know, it's like a lot of the courses that we go to, we have to retrain people how to be kids again, because they've never played in the mud. They don't know how different types of mud interact. So they don't know how to build a dam or to retain water on their landscape, because they didn't get to play in the mud as a kid. If they had had all those realizations and epiphanies and started to understand the different material types, all of these skills that should just be totally ingrained in us, we have to learn as an adult now and just try and put the pieces together.
I want my grandchildren to know that, to have dirty fingernails, to go out and pick something out of the garden and eat it without washing it. I want them to be able to do that and not worry about it, not be afraid of it. That's how we get our strength. You know, people who are protected from dirt and their food and everything die young because they haven't been inoculated. You know, we inoculate ourselves if we're allowed to. I ran around barefoot in the chicken house. My mother hated it. I mean, she would, don't do that. You'll catch whatever. We still did it. We never got sick. You know, I never had mumps, but my brother did. Well, I chewed his gum. I didn't, you know, it wasn't a conscious thing. It's just he took it. I chewed, we were kids, what? So years and years later, here I go to my wellness checkup. I go once a year, whether I need it or not. And they're saying to me, you need to have the mumps vaccine. I said, well, test me first. I know, I haven't had mumps. They come back with the test. No, you're inoculated. You don't have to get everything to immunize yourself against things. That's my point. And this whole business about living in a society which thinks it has to clean everything with hardcore stuff isn't my bag, you know. I like my grandkids to have dirty faces and go dig in the dirt. I think it's healthy, provided the dirt's healthy. And that's the big right there.
In our Western culture, it's not easy to get back to our roots. It's not. We've become so disconnected from nature, and we're living so artificially connected with entertainment that there's none of this quiet time for soul searching. It's why our youth, I think, are lost. It's why our youth are lost, is that they lost that connection, that inner connection with the heart and the soul. So don't know, they're all searching for their passion, what Joseph Campbell calls their bliss. They're all searching for that.
We have an incredible space to be able to facilitate many gatherings of large groups of young people throughout the season here in Oregon. So, you know, and by offering hands-on education in a communal experience, then it's incredibly empowering. It's incredibly awakening. It's a transformational experience that we're offering, that these young people can go and take this great wisdom that they learn and implement it in their communities throughout.
What I've found now is more and more we're working in schools in Asia, and that, given that's what really motivates me, is we're bringing some of this permaculture into the schools, having the schools do edible school gardens where the children actually get to eat what they're growing, and that's very empowering for me. It's the old Chinese saying that, you can talk right now and get some change maybe, but if you want to see change in 10 years, you plant trees, but if you want to see change for 100 years, you educate children.
We look at the issues of hyperactivity, ADHD, things like that, and the research is showing, and I'm going to say tentative, it's hard to get that research really out there and published, is that children who have ADHD, if they just go organic, 50% will be healed. Now that's a significant and simple statement. So suddenly we create sustainable kids. It's not sustainable for a child to be on Ritalin, which is a long-acting cocaine-like substance, and then we know that those kids who are on Ritalin have a much higher tendency to become cocaine addicts in their teens. So this is not sustainable. So there's simple things. Just going organic, you're going to decrease the amount of mental disruption in children. That's just one simple act of sustainability. So organic farming becomes a cornerstone of cleaning the atmosphere, rebuilding the healthy soil. No society has ever survived that doesn't respect the topsoil. Societies that have disregarded the topsoil have all disappeared. That's just a historical fact. And we're in the United States, they're down to about 6 inches of topsoil. We started with about 2 feet. So it's like, oh my goodness. So right now we have an opportunity to start to rebuild the topsoil by going organic. So with one simple act of organic farming, we have created a whole cascade of sustainability.
We see a lot of things happening that can be easily addressed. A lot of people are dealing with these issues in their community that are happening on a national level. Yeah, we got obesity, type 2 diabetes, hypertension, attention deficit disorders, all these other disorders that exist that are happening in our food industry. So what we need to do?
Bring order.
Straight up. Bring it to the schools. You show the young people how to create their own food. You show them how to use it as food, as medicine, and then you tell them that, yeah, you can charge $80 a plate, player. You know what I'm saying? When you show them that they can still sell greens and not the ones you roll, the ones that they can still hustle on the corner and still make that kale money for, then they really respect it. You have to redefine the image of wealth and just basically change the product, all right? So when you make it fresh and fly, then everybody gonna want it like new kicks.
I'd like to say one other thing about growing food. I mean, we're a long way from growing a significant number of our calories. I mean, we have a good deal of lettuce and salad bars. We've been doing that, a lot of that lately. But there's so much more value than just the food. It's easier to just order the food. But this way, the children have a sense of life, of contributing to the cycle of life, of watching it grow from this little seed to something that they actually can eat, and watching that cycle all happen again. So again, it's more than just nutrition. I mean, it's nutrition in the sense of vitamins. It's nutrition in the sense of life and understanding our role and being part of life. So that's why I think it's so much worth doing, not because it's easier or cheaper or that we're going to grow all of our own food unless we start raising a lot of sheep, which some people do. But just having our children be more connected with life rather than so many people who are disconnected and now have the alternative of spending their life in a little electronic world that they carry in their pocket. We have that too out here, but we don't want them to lose their connection with the earth.
Yeah, what Kate is talking about is relationship. It's the value of the kids having a relationship with the plants that they eat, and to actually understand it from the beginning all the way to the time when they ingest it. There's a respect that comes about through that I don't think you can get if you don't engage in that growing process.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect example. I had a neighbor who knew I was the urban forager, came over to me, Kate, I have a tree in my yard. I don't know about this tree. It's got things on it. Are they edible? Well, I go over there and it's this tree covered with beautiful little orange yellow fruit. I said, Dave, did you smell them? He went, no. I said, pick one, smell it, tell me what it is. He goes, oh my God, it's an apricot. It's like, are you kidding me, Dave? You have never seen them except in the store, right? Right? Okay. This is what's happened. It's not the good news. Go out there and smell things, for heaven's sakes. And if you don't like the smell, don't bother to go any further. Don't eat it. Your body knows these things, you know. If it feels and tastes and appears to be yummy to you, and you take a little nibble and it tastes yummy, chances are it's going to be yummy in you.
So the skills for survival are just going to be more than technology skills. They're going to actually be resilient skills, and I happen to feel that it would create a very, very healthy world if we were able to have the security of growing our own food, even if it's on your condo balcony. You know, it's very easy to have a waste can with some red wiggler worms there and put your kitchen scraps in it and walk out to your balcony and put that into your growing pots. And along the sides of your balcony, you've got your herbs and spices growing, and you've got a small little aquarium with your fish in it, and that that closed cycle gives you both your protein and your vegetables. And while you're doing it, by the way, it's cleaning the air, and it's making for a type of food that you know exactly what's in it. You don't have to worry about like who's sprayed it with what. I mean, whoever thought of putting poisons on our food was like, what were they thinking, right? You know. So food security is a big issue, and I think our children will be actually faced with answering that dilemma. What does food security mean? What does community resiliency mean? And these skills will allow both of those to take place.
So I make a little green salve. It's been called Nenes Green Goo. I'm called Nene by some of my grandkids. Others call me Grammy. But it's the green goo. Everybody asks for where's the green goo? And so I've named it that. And it has simple things in it. Calendula, comfrey, chickweed, plantain, St. John's wort. I gather them, I make them into oils, combine them, add a little beeswax, a little coconut oil, and I don't suggest eating them, and they're edible, both. I mean, if some kid gets a hold of it, eats it, the worst that'll happen is they'll go to the bathroom a lot. It'll grease the track. That's it. These are not dangerous. These won't hurt you. And yet, they will take care of chemical burns. They will take care of cradle cap. They will take care of diaper rash, chapped skin, zits. They're gone. And it's easy. And you can make it at home. This is what we need to know more about. How do you make the stuff at home? You go out, you collect the leaves, you bring them in. Some you dry, some you don't. Mix them with grapeseed oil, or sometimes with alcohol if you want a different sort of thing like a tincture. Just dry them and leave them in a bag or in a jar. I like glass jars with screw lids myself, and make tea. They have simple uses and they're profoundly efficient.
The reason I use different methods in the garden, in part, is to show students different ways of growing when they go home. There's some places in the country where the soil is difficult to work with, and in a raised bed, you can put weed barrier down so that things like Bermuda grass have more difficulty getting into the raised bed, and here I put chicken wire underneath it so that the gophers don't get into the raised beds. And then by
choosing how you mix the soil, you can determine its qualities and properties. And that can be used in lots of different situations in urban farming. And so the row crops we used for some of our crops that we need more production. Carrots, at one point the Orm Ranch was made it through the Depression by growing carrots here, so there's kind of a heritage there and relationship. So that's one of our main row crops. But and then with the fruit trees, we can plant different things underneath them. We've planted the 200 tree orchard this year with the Burpee Foundation grant, and we'll interplant as the orchard gets established and be able to grow some of the berries and those kinds of things in the shade of the fruit trees as they get larger.
People in the elite mind understand how to heal themselves using plant-based medicines. People in the poor mind still are captive by the drum. They're so captive by anything that they hear and see that, you know, if it ain't right and exact, the only way that the elevation can really happen is if they get that rub off on somebody. But really it's about how we can create the mood, the moves for each other, you know what I'm saying? Like, everyone really needs this path right now, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not just the rich white people. The rich white people, they know what's up. But the people in the hood, come on, man, like, they ain't got on the real. And when we're talking about access, you want to talk about food deserts? I can talk about yoga deserts, all right? I can talk about apothecary deserts, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, they got dispensaries, but ain't nobody got the Chinese medicines, bruh. And like, when you break it down like this, these are the issues that can be easily addressed. You put that in the schools.
We have designed our school to be values-based, and it's based on what we think of as sustainable values that come directly out of Navajo culture. And we have summarized those values as our 4 R's: respect, responsibility, relationship, and reasoning. We teach that throughout our curriculum, and we also try to model that ourselves. So what our kids have seen in our school just existing, not to mention all the trials and tribulations we've gone through it, that not only did we succeed in actually creating this school, but it's really a vibrant school. The kids know that. They know how much we care about them and how much we love them. And of course, that's really what this is about. You know, in terms of this term sustainability, to me it means the ability of a community to keep itself going in thriving, not just surviving, not just hanging on. It's actually thriving. And I believe if we can do it in this community with incredibly high unemployment, all kinds of issues like alcohol and various kinds of other challenges. If we can do it here, it can be done just about anywhere. And we would like to, be an example to encourage people not to give up on this idea that you can actually have your community be thriving. Thriving also means our students obviously have to pick up these values and carry them with them. So a couple little stories, for example. We've been teaching our kids in our home economics class to utilize the vegetables that we grow in our greenhouse. So the kids themselves have the chance each year of developing recipes using things like kale and squash and other things that we're growing or that the local farmers are growing, and make them into recipes they really like. So for our 8th grade graduation last year, the 8th graders got a chance to decide, as they do every year, what the menu of the banquet is going to be that we cook here at the school. And lo and behold, they decided they wanted kale salad in their banquet. We just couldn't believe it at first, and it made us laugh because it's clearly a sign that some impact is happening. Another part of this story, I think, is we have had students graduate from here, go on and major in environmental engineering, and come back and tell the students here how lucky they are to be in a place where they can actually live this day in and day out. And she's going for her PhD in environmental engineering, and gives us some credit anyway for having oriented her in that direction. Now, we never said to her, we think you ought to go into environmental engineering. What we did do is we did our best to practice what we believe, and with all our mistakes and all our problems and all the challenges we've had that we've sometimes handled well, sometimes not so well.
But that the kids don't know about, usually.
Yeah. So it's clear that these children, some of them anyway, get very passionate about this. And it doesn't take that much for the children going through a school that is truly working in sustainability to pick up on those values and to not have to be sold those values. So I think that's what matters.
Here in the West, there's all these distractions. And the skill of taking personal responsibility for your lives is sort of mitigated by mom and dad because they can still live at home till they're in their late 20s. Now, mom and dad don't necessarily want them there, but they're there. And I feel my heart goes out to them because they're struggling, to get emancipated from this. They don't want to be there. They would much rather have found their bliss and be off living a life and feel alive. They want to feel alive. Well, we have all these projects that will connect them to their roots, and they light up. I mean, what gets me up every morning is to go out and work with these young people, because I can see the smiles and I can see that they're finding what they've been searching for 25 years, 30 years sometimes, and they're finding it in these projects.
One of Circle of Children's programs that we're, and projects that we're working on right now is called the GEM Network. And the GEM Network stands for Global Empowerment Mandala. And the GEM Network is a social media and crowdfunding platform that are married. And basically the intention is to inspire and empower young people to create positive change in the world by making sure that they have the resources they need in order to take a creative idea for positive change and make it into a successful project. We see it as the next level in crowdfunding, as folks can give time, they can give their services, they can also give product donations if they're a green business, and they can also give money too as well. And so basically is youth come onto this platform to feel supported and be supported and create or join existing projects and invite the community to support them. And the social media platform allows for these various different resources to be offered, not just money. So basically, if I'm a web developer and I want to support a youth in their environmental project, then I can find that youth on an interactive map, and by using the filterable search engine, I can find a particular youth that I want to support, whether it be an art project in San Francisco or whether it be an art project in South America.
So Ampersand Sustainable Learning Center, it's primarily the place where me and my husband Andy live, and it's also a place where we invite people to also learn about sustainable living through the projects that we're doing here. And so we do natural building, land restoration, we're growing food, we're harvesting the sun. We're basically being as sustainable as we can in our context, in this particular climate, location, and we're an off-grid place. So we have solar panels for our electricity, and we use a lot of salvage materials so that we're harvesting things from the waste stream. So the ways that we invite people to learn here are through workshops that I teach, and we have other people come teach as well. And so skill building in that way. And then also we offer retreats so people can come and just stay in the teepee or in a straw bale house and feel what it's like to live on this land and to live off grid and to, turn off your phone for a while and just kind of be. And then we have residencies where people come for up to, over a week or more to live and learn about sustainability, but also have your own life going on. And we have internet here so people can kind of carry on in a certain way while they're living here. And then we have the internship program, and that's an 8-week program where students come, and there's an age range from college age up until much older. And so it's a program where they learn to live with our water systems and our cooking systems with solar cooking. And so learning to live sustainably and then starting to do some skill building and doing some earth building, just salvage building, land restoration, whatever we're doing at the time.
We're a nonprofit here in Oregon, and we serve children and families and youth and everyone else that wants to come play and support that development and growth. We offer sustainable living skills, creative arts and expression, dynamic leadership, and just provide experiential educational opportunities to help connect us to nature, connect us to tribe and community. And the goal is to awaken that inner flame, that passion within each one of us, and discover what we love to do, and discover who we really are, and remember where we came from and why we're here, and the bigger picture of this human experience and this universal experience. And it's a very spiritual adventure that we're all on, but just like learning, playing by growing gardens and building simpler structures and natural buildings, and learning about the wildlife identification, like tuning into what the nature has here for us growing in abundance, whether it be for food or whether it be for medicine. The earth is so abundant and so bountiful, and it's so empowering to know that everything we need is all around us, and with each other's support as a human culture, then we can thrive.
Growing up as a child and as a student on Orm Ranch and Orm School was, it had, of course, all the benefits of a bucolic setting. We were always around animals and experienced a lot of things out in nature, whether it was camping, survival courses, learning how a cattle ranch operates, riding horses and being involved in horsemanship events, taking care of the community garden, which we had at that time, on a little bit of a smaller scale than it is now. But so it was very rewarding to really understand where everything in your life was coming from. There's a lot of things that we did that ultimately pointed back to nature. So in that regard, it was already setting the seeds for an awareness of a sustainable lifestyle. Yeah.
Our spirit of what we're about, our vision behind the school, is absolutely fundamental underneath everything we do, and that is that we are close to the earth. Right? We're not. I am absolutely, in some ways, I'm 100%, militant, and I totally agree with that side of things. And when it comes to leadership in emergency situations, it's all military type of leadership. Not in every situation, but in emergency situations. And I have no problem putting on that hat. But on the other side, I am an earth-loving tree hugger, and I absolutely, that's my point here on life. Life on Earth is all about that to me. So you're not going to find us walking along the walking along the landscape, just grabbing plants that we use for herbal medicine and like they're ours, and stuffing them in our mouths and saying this is mine and this is cool. I got an herb that I learned how to heal or how to help myself, and it's there for me. It's much more of a relationship between us and the earth, and understanding that we are symbiotically, via the carbon cycle, we're practicing mouth-to-mouth resuscitation with the plant world every breath we take, and this is a very important concept, I think, that you have to grow into, and you start to learn that there is a plant consciousness, there's an earth consciousness, there is an animal consciousness, there is every species has its consciousness, and then the planet itself has a sentience and a consciousness, just like a human cell does, and it's no different. And all these things that we find as we go into the microscopic world repeat themselves out here in the macroscopic world, and what we end up with, if we start to live our life that way, is we find that there are no coincidences. We walk along the earth, walk along our path, and at the right time, the right thing is there for us, and it just happens. And in my life, that's all that ever happens. And as far as I'm concerned, that's the way that my life will always be lived, because if it isn't happening that way, it's not worth living. And so it's sort of like, just that, it's a trust, but it's really an intuitive, just living life moment to moment. And so this is herbal medicine. This is where our food comes from. This is how we build our buildings. This is how we communicate with each other as a species and other humans. All of this is wrapped up into that mentality, that vision behind the school. And I think because of that, it attracts that particular group of people. So I would say, beyond it being a school, you also have to have a particular vision that stands up to scrutiny.
There's a lot of stories about our students who come from families with all kinds of things. You would say, well, they're at risk. But, part of what we do here is just love them. And then, like Mark says, the 4 R's: respect, responsibility, relationship, and reasoning. We're a school. But it starts with respect, connection with Mother Earth, and relationship, which is so much part of the Navajo culture, and it really is part of life for all of us.
Yeah, so family plays a big role in why we do what we do. As a child, I wanted to live in a country so badly. I just craved it, and not being able to have that has made it really important to me to be able to provide that for my children. So right now we have a 5-year-old, a 2-year-old, and then another one on the way. And I have to say they're really one of the driving forces in why we continue this lifestyle. I feel like raising them around their own food, around animals in the garden, they just have that level of knowledge that you don't see in a lot of other kids. They are confident, they can handle themselves around the large animals. They understand that things come out of the dirt, or that milk comes from a cow instead of being on the grocery store shelf. And that's something I enjoy every single day. Even when it's hard work, or we're sweaty, or we have a lot of projects going on, that's really one of the huge driving forces in this lifestyle for us.
The next step toward a more conscious, more responsible human being is to create new educational systems, a new approach to education altogether that values the creative input, the contribution of each individual, not scales us on a competitive scale. And today that has become my philosophy of from competition to contribution. The Waldorf School does some of that because Steiner had those concepts. It is not executed very well often because it's become an elite school in some countries. However, that was the intention, and one can go way beyond those early concepts in creating environments in which children learn, because we are born with the innate desire to learn, to excel, to create, to outdo ourselves.
We lived in the heart of London for 11 years, and we thought we would never leave. But I really think when we started to get children, that was really what triggered something in us. It really triggered the feeling that, what is this life that we are chasing? What is the contribution that we are making for the future that lay ahead of them? And we were talking regularly about, what are we going to do to prevent that they are going to get into this mold that we felt, caught in ourselves. And then we started to look at schools, and you think, once they get into schools, then that's the beginning of the end in terms of truly connecting with who you are and where you come from. And so for a couple of years, when the 3 children were still young, we looked for places to move to find that balance, a balance of being connected with nature and still being able to to raise kids in a good way.
And in the words of Lao Tzu, he says, "What you do is who you are." So as we begin to associate more with plants or animals or roof water catchment or natural building or beekeeping, everybody has their own sweet spot. You become to be that. And so now I always think it's interesting because people come here and they think we have all the answers. And I just realize, we're just getting started. Like if you could only see what I see. And I think one important lesson I've learned through spending time with Native American friends and elders is a real simple phrase: body follows vision. That we need to value how powerful our mind is, and that our body is just here to be a servant to that. So if you can crystallize a vision of how something is, like this land, I kind of saw it about like this when we moved here. And it's taken a little while, but now it gives me the faith that our imagination and our creativity, it's not just like children that's just superfluous. It actually is a really important guiding light of what carries our soul forward in this life. So if we can visualize, and that's one of the challenges I issue out to the young people I work with who are in their 20s. What's it look like to you in 50 years? You're probably going to still be alive. What's it look like? What's it feel like? Okay, now make sure that all of your actions, as much as possible, are consistent with arriving there. Arriving in a place of just this, incredible ecotopian permaculture, multiculturally kind, compassionate, life-affirming, thriving biome, which is what the Earth always has been. And, some of our actions haven't been that. So whenever we reach these crossroads, is it going to be consistent with arriving in that kind of a place? And so for me, sometimes there's an irony of like, I just want to stay here in my little Shangri-La and just putter around in my garden. But I see, if I want other people to be there, I need to somehow figure out a way to share my experiences to help other people do it more efficiently and quickly than I have, which is the path of stubborn, ignorant, let me do it myself. But now we're in this era through technology and resource sharing. It's really easy to find out all this stuff. This movie that you're working on is a perfect example of it. There are ways that 50 years ago we did not have for sharing information. You had to go on some pilgrimage to find that person with the knowledge. Nowadays you can go on YouTube. So that's the one thing I see is like our roles will shift. And so that body follows vision thing, again, like, okay, if that's the vision you have, your body will just follow it. What are the crossroads that you'll have to make the intelligent, compassionate decisions so that we are all have access to this life-affirming existence?
So we were talking about repatterning our whole physical selves, because the brain is physically patterned by the behaviors and the physical environments that we're exposed to. And again, I'm sitting in a square or rectangular room. If I would be sitting in a round room, it would differently impact my thinking of myself as being part of a circular space. If I were sitting in a dynamically shaped room that has different shapes, it would influence my seeing myself as a part of that dynamic structure. If I am allowed as a child in my classroom to sit in different circles and dynamic structures and to change those structures, which is again what Waldorf schools have started to do. As of 2000 in particular, a Swedish gentleman, Per Album is his name, began to understand that children, when sitting in circles on the floor and then recreating their own spaces, they have little benches, and then a certain part of the class can be that, okay, now we want to put those benches together and sit around them as tables. Now we want to build those benches into an auditorium and have a drama going on in the center or on one side. Now we want to rearrange our classroom. When we have the opportunity as children to create our world, we begin to understand, and it becomes second nature, that that is really what we're doing. We're just allowing others to create it for us, even to the extent that we're creating all these gods who are telling us what to do and who are carrying this responsibility. And we're executing somebody else's will always. And whether that's God or whether that's Hitler, it then becomes that we're the executioners of somebody else's will. And to get away from that, we have to start in those early years. And if we're already beyond those early years, we at least have to try to expose ourselves to communities where that is lived. It is impossible to restructure our physical brain just by thought and intention. So only when we live it can we actually physically become this new paradigm. And for sustainability, which needs us as co-responsible beings for the planet, and we have now shown that we are entirely co-responsible, because not only have we invented weapons that can destroy the planet many, many times over, and some of them have been dismantled because of our anti-nuclear efforts and those of Helen Caldicott and others, but we still have to recreate a new type of structure, a new kind of philosophy that manifests itself and can be lived. How do you get from competition to contribution? Where does it influence us? Everywhere.
So I'm connected to a lot of different amazing projects that are creating something similar to the vision I brought through, which was an umbrella brand for an eco-village / retreat center / university for holistic planetary culture, so that people can come and go through an initiation and come out transformed to bring their piece of this puzzle wherever they need to be. You know, whether it's an urban environment and they want to bring something there, whether it's more of a spiritual focus or a leadership focus or an entrepreneurial focus, that there's enough of a broad spectrum of the essential pieces to what is going to help heal our planet and bring it into balance, to have each, you know, curriculum available, from nonviolent communication to permaculture to sweat lodge ceremonies and traditional ancestral wisdom. You know, the balance of all these different things, I feel like we need a synergy, a balance. That there's not going to be one pathway that's gonna liberate humanity and bring us back to harmony. It's really a combination of things that we need. And so the vision of these villages have been alive in my heart for a long time. I've had some really profound visions of knowing that we're creating safe containers for these new children that are coming. You know, what it would be like to be raised in a village. We've grown up with 4 white walls, and you know, neighborhoods, and even neighborhoods have changed. Communities changed drastically in the urban to the suburban lifestyle. There's a lot of disconnection, and you know, there's so many gifts of being in a village. You know, the children are co-parented. They have enough reflections of support that they can individuate in a way that's really healthy. The parents get to continue to pursue their gifts, passions, spirituality, whatever, because there's a support of the community, and it's just a win-win all around. And so I know for myself, that's how I want to live. I want to raise my children close to the land. I also want to have Wi-Fi in my, you know, whatever. We need to find that balance of the ancient and the new. And so the focus of these villages for me is to truly offer an alternative, a practical alternative to humanity, to say like, hey, there's so many reasons why this will benefit all of us. And I know so many other people that are passionate about that. So it's really finding how we can support each other in discovering how to do this, because it's never been done before at this scale with so many willing participants. I mean, there's hundreds of visions out there that are really calling in funding right now, and I'm breaking dirt. I mean, they're digging, and they're starting to build infrastructure, and it's exciting.
Only with the recognition of new values will we be able to transition from the one pattern to a new pattern. And those values need to be lived. I need to, as a mother, be able to say, come here. What happened? As opposed to, you just ruined that dish I made, by throwing it on the floor. And it's a whole learning process, because our first instinct reaction is to scold. And it has to be reversed. Scolding is no longer a means, just as we have abandoned physical punishment for our children. We need to abandon vindictiveness as parents against our children, which really, when you think about it, makes no sense. You have a 3-year-old who is a human being hoping to learn what life is all about, hoping to learn the rules of the world and how it all works. And we scold that child into sitting still, and we force that child into behaving in all sorts of ways, as opposed to allowing the child to be with us in a way that is co-creative. And then we get to school, and then we sit in these rows again. And unless you really comprehend that it all interacts, then we get, of course, to food. I mean, my claim to fame recently is that I produce a raw food product line that I want to share with as many people as possible. So Johanna's Raw Foods goes out there saying you can get on a path of self-healing with food. You can get on a path away from cutting up animals, thinking that it's food, but it's actually hurting your own body. And of course, I'm sure you have plenty of speakers speaking on those topics. And how do you change these value systems in our educational systems? How do you not grade a child by the mathematical skills that are possibly even in the child, but cannot be expressed because the methodology that teaching applies is not working for that child. The learning method is not working for that child. So getting away from competitiveness is, I think, probably the hardest for us to do. We do sports. We won! Wah! We're the best, Go kill him. Go knock him out. And we rejoice in that win. And it unfortunately translates exactly into, let's go to war. Let's knock him out. Let's knock him dead, Pour them mofos with some napalm. And when we really look at it, and when we really sit across from that individual, the soldier, there's hardly ever a human being who wants to joyfully kill another human being. It just isn't there. It has to be trained into us.
And he said, when children are raised in nature, in tune with nature, when those children become politicians, the silent revolution is complete. And that's, I think, so true. We can't rework our system. We have to first start with raising people who actually understand the natural world, who are actually going to work with it, who are going to use all of the amazing resources that we have all around us to our advantage. And then we can really start to progress our society.
And so the progression of society does not have to mean creating more scientists or more astrophysicists or more lawyers or more any of these things, that we think are important positions held high in our minds of society, such as actors and entertainers and scientists and football players and so forth. But I believe, as many others, that the progression of our society is going to be when we raise more children who are in tune with nature, who are coming from that space of caring for the planet, who are in harmony with the natural systems of the planet first, and then going out and creating from there, whether that be from a scientific standpoint or it be from a humanitarian or an ecological, whatever that standpoint might be from, but from that first foundational piece of living in harmony with the planet. And so it's up to us to start creating these new schools, these new environments, these new communities, these new opportunities for children to be raised in that natural environment. And so you can educate yourself and connect yourself deeper into the natural world while bringing your children into